Hey guys, I'm Liz Rogers. I'm doing one of the tutorials this week for our Quiz Access. So it's week 2 Quiz Access covering chapters 1 and 12. And we're going to be doing problems 13, 14, and 15 together. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we're going to be working on. This is problem 13 right here. For all of the stuff for 13, 14, and 15, we're going to be using the same information. So right here at the top of the question, it gives you the information that applies to those 3 questions. On December 1st, Yasmin Ernst organized Ernst Consulting. On December 3rd, the owner contributed $83,010 in assets in exchange for its common stock to launch the business. On December 31st, the company's records show the following items and amounts. And then we have a chart here that gives us the information about the company at the end of December. So now we're going to come down to question 13. You can see up in the upper left which question number we're on. Using the above information, prepare a December income statement for the business. Okay, so our key word that we're looking for here, well, keywords, is December income statement, because then we know what we're looking for. So an income statement, all the financial statements have the company name at the top, right? So here's the company name, and just under that is the type of financial statement. We're preparing an income statement, and that's already filled in for us right here. So we know from our assigned reading that an income statement addresses a specific time span. So if we go into our text, let me move this control out of the way so that I can access that. If we go into our text, we can look and see financial statements right here. There's this great chart in the reading. It's on page 15 in the textbook. And it shows right here what financial statement we're looking at, what the layout looks like, and then over here is the purpose. So this is the part we want to look at. We want to see right here for an income statement. It describes a company's revenues and expenses and computes net income or loss over a period of time. So period of time is what we're looking at right now. So if we go back to our assignment and we look and see, if you click the drop down, it will give you some great clues about what your options are for that portion of the chart. So right here we have 2 choices. We have as of December 31st or for month ended December 21st. As of December 31st is a point in time. So not a span of time, not with a beginning date and an end date, but as of December 31st is on this date. Well, for an income statement, we want that beginning date and end date. We want a time span. So we're going to select for month ended December 31st. So that's going to help anybody looking at your report to know that your data covers from December 1st to December 31st. Okay, so now we want to look at another part on our income statement and see what else are we looking at? What other components do we have to an income statement? Well, right here we have revenues and expenses, and then we have this interesting line that says computes net income or loss. We already took care of over a period of time, so we know, and we can look right here and see revenues subtract expenses equals net income. So we want at the bottom to have net income. At the top we want revenues, and then we're going to subtract the expenses. Revenues is money that came into the business, money that the business earned. So let's look at this next drop down and see what our options are. Assets, liabilities, and equity. Those are all going to be balance sheet accounts, so we're going to address those later. Right now, we're going to start with revenues, right? That was our top one. So first we have revenues, and then down here at the bottom, we know that we want to have net income or net loss. So we're going to wait to choose that until we know if it's positive or negative. If it's positive, it's going to be net income. If it's negative, it's going to be a net loss. So what was our other component? Let's come back and look at it. The other one is expenses. So we need to know what the business spent in order to make income. So right here, we can choose expenses. So we have revenues, expenses, and then down at the bottom, we're going to have a net income or net loss. So the only thing we have left to do now is to come up and look at all of our data, all of our information up here. We want to look at all of these numbers and say, okay, what is revenue? What is what the business earned this month? Well, most of these over here, and actually I guess we can look and see. So cash, accounts receivable, office supplies, land, office equipment, those all don't really sound like revenue to me, so I don't think we're going to address those right now. What else do we have? We have accounts payable and common stock. Those don't sound like revenue either. That sounds like things that we owe to other people that are not inside the company. So then we also have cash dividends. That doesn't really sound like revenue because dividends are things that we pay. But let's look at this one right here. This one has a great word. It gives us a clue. Consulting revenue. And so that right there is what we're going to put in this line down here. So we want to come down and go consulting revenue. And then we're going to put the amount there. So that one's $12,820. And then let's look and see, are there any more bits of revenue up here? Right here we have rent expense. Rent expense, salaries expense, telephone expense, and miscellaneous expenses. That sounds like a big long list of expenses, which is kind of handy because that's the next thing we are going to need. So if we come down under expenses, if you start typing in these boxes, it will bring up your options. Let me roll down a little bit on this so that you can see a little better. Okay, so we are going to put in rent expense, and then if you hit enter, it'll go right over to the next cell. So now it's in. The one surrounded by dotted lines is the one I'm in. Rent expense, that's $2,530, and then if I hit enter, it'll just go right down to the next line. So now, so now we're going to do salaries expense, and that's 5,758. So 5,780. Telephone expense, 790. And miscellaneous expense, 610. Okay, so now you notice on the assignment that it's already totaling it for us automatically. So I already have total revenues. It's pulling that because I have revenues in this line. And that total is there. Down here we have total expenses because this is the expenses subsection. And then the total is here. So now it's wanting us to compute here. If you're wondering which rows you're supposed to enter an answer in, the ones with the little blue triangle are where you should enter an answer. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull up our calculator real quick, and we're going to see how much is the difference. So we have 12,820. And that was our revenue, so money coming in. And then we have expenses of 9,710. We're going to subtract that, just like our formula told us. And that total is a positive number because you'll see there's no negative out here. So that's 3,110. So now we know that that is a net income because it is not negative. If it was a negative number, it would be a net loss. And then we put that number in there. And now your income statement is done, and you're going to be ready to move on to the next section. Okay, now we're going to look at number 14. And we're using the same information at the top that we were using before. But we have different requirements down below. So now we're going to be preparing a December statement of retained earnings for the same company. So let's go back to the textbook, and we're going to look and see on page 15 what the statement of retained earnings has on it. So it's going to explain changes in retained earnings from net income or loss and dividends over a period of time. So when we come back to the assignment, we can say, oh, okay, well now we know that we're looking at a period of time. So we have company name, we have statement name, and then we're going to say period of time, so we know that that's month ended and not as of. So what you start with is your retained earnings for December 1st. We already know that because it's given to us and that's 0. So in this next drop down, what we want to do is we're going to add net income, because if you come back to our one before, our income statement, we had net income of $3,110. So that's going to carry to this next page. And we're going to say 3,110. And then when you tab, it's going to automatically add those. So here's where you're at with 0 plus 3,110 equals 3,110. Now, remember from the textbook, we got to take off dividends. So that's what we're doing now, is taking the dividends off. And up here we can see cash dividends $930. So we're going to enter that and say 930. And then this down here is going to be retained earnings, not December 1st, but on December 31st. And that's our total at the end of the month. Okay, now we're going to look at number 15. This is the last one, almost there. Same information at the top, going down, using information to prepare a December 31st balance sheet for the company. Let's flip back over to the book and review what's on a balance sheet. So, balance sheet describes the financial position, which means types and amounts of assets, liabilities, and equity. Now, the one thing that's going to be different about the balance sheet than was for the income statement and the statement of retained earnings is this one is at a point in time. So a balance sheet is a snapshot of one day in the business. So we're going to flip back over here. So company name, which financial statement it is, it's our balance sheet. So for this one, point in time. So December 31st, balance sheet contains assets. And if you look, it's especially helpful in the book on this page right here. Wrong direction. Right here. That it will show you that assets equals liabilities plus equity. That's our accounting equation, so we're really familiar with that. But it also shows you the format. Assets are on the left, liabilities plus equity are on the right. So we want to look at on here, it will especially be helpful because it will show us assets on the left equals liabilities at the top plus equity here. And then that's going to give us our setup that we need. So let's go back to our other page. So right here, we're going to have assets. Over here on the top, we're going to have liabilities. And then here, we can have equity. So now we're all set up and ready to start entering data. Okay, so I've got all that punched in. Most of the information came from up here. Assets on the left, total assets at the bottom. This automatically calculates. Liabilities on the top right, and we've got those entered here. And then down here we have equity, and we have common stock that comes from our table. Retained earnings we needed to pull from our statement of retained earnings, because the statement of retained earnings total for the end of whatever time period is what flows to the balance sheet. So we pull that over and put retained earnings and that amount here. This is an automatic total and this is an automatic total. But down here, you're going to want to make sure you select total liabilities and equity, because this double line total down here is this whole section. So it's both liabilities and equity. So that's 13, 14, and 15 for this week's homework. You guys make comments and let me know if there's anything that's confusing that you need help with, any suggestions that you have. I'd really appreciate it. Good luck with your assignment.